Welcome to the FAST Podcast, Financial Advisor Strategy Talks with Lara Galloway, SVP of Financial Education at White Glove. Lara provides advisors with an opportunity to hear from some of the best minds in the business. Follow along to learn quick tips to help you grow your business, from gaining new leads to keeping current clients engaged, and everything in between. Now, on to the show.
Hello and welcome to the FAST Podcast with your host, Lara Galloway from White Glove. Lara, what's going on?
Hey, Eric, we've got a great talk coming up today. I'm so excited.
I'm extremely excited. And for those that are seeing this on video, you're getting a dash of pink today. Not even a dash, a tsunami of pink is on the screen right now. And there's a great reason. There is one thing missing though, Sheryl, that I noticed. Can I bring that up? Can I ask you a question?
Go for it.
And this is, this absolutely tells my age. I'm looking for a leather jacket that says Pink Ladies. You have one?
Okay,
Somewhere?
now it's funny you say that. I actually have I have not a pink one, but I have a black jacket that says that I wear with the pink. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was leather. It was from Greece.
Yep.
The Pink Ladies. All right. Well, Lara, what are you guys talking about?
I really wish we could just talk about Grease because I just watched that at home with my daughter again. And oh man, we could sing along. It would
Which
be
one?
great.
Grease or Grease 2?
Well, just Grease 1. Grease 2 we
okay.
haven't done yet. We got to get
Gotcha.
into that one. Yeah, very good. So guys, with me, the pink lady herself today is Sheryl Hickerson. Sheryl, I'm so excited to have you here today. Sheryl is running an amazing community called Females in Finance, which I am proud to be a member of. I'm learning my way around. I'm so excited. Sheryl is on a mission to do a lot of teaching of social and digital marketing strategies for financial advisors and financial services organizations. When she founded Females in Finance just a short while ago, I'm going to get the full download on that because this is what we want to talk about today is what she has done with this amazing community, why she built this community, and how she built this community. 4,100 members strong, I believe.
Yeah.
Golly. And you guys launched something called the Fearless Pledge, which is to get 100,000 women into the profession of financial services by 2025. I am so excited to talk about this. So Sheryl, I'm going to welcome you formally to the FAST Podcast. Thanks so much for being here today.
It's a pleasure. I'm so good. And it's happy to see you again too.
Happy to see you again. And I think we're going to run into each other at a few conferences coming up.
I think so.
Yeah, I can't wait. Okay. So a very obvious question. Sheryl, if you could just give us a little bit of your background in the profession and why you chose to focus on women in the financial services industry.
I appreciate that. I have been working in financial services since I was 19, and it was, I had moved from Missouri to San Francisco. I picked a spot on the map and said, I'm just going to go there. And I had $1,000 in my pocket and thought I was rich. And I was so poor by the time you get there and you think you have this money and you don't. And I had to get a job. And I followed Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead and went into I'm not kidding. I went into the Berkeley Kinko's in Berkeley, California and copied the resume straight out of the book. And I faxed it off to the wrong number. And thank you to the financial services institution that called me and said, hey, I think you're looking for something else, but we're hiring. Would you like to come in? I was like, yes. And so I did. I went in, I did an interview with them and they hired me. And the rest is history. I literally have never worked another job outside of financial services since the get-go. And I don't know, Laura, I just fell in love with it. It was one of those things where I connected with it. And when I took that job, I don't think I really realized the amount of help that financial service professionals bring to everyday people. And, we always are after the elephants out there that are going, I get it. But truly, when you look at everyday people, there is so much good stuff that happens there, especially when there's something bad that happens. A lot of times there's a trigger.
Mm-hmm.
I love the work that we do. And from that, what I found was as I was progressing through my career, oftentimes there's always the first and the onlys, right?
Yeah.
I was either the first person that became an account rep for that office, or I was the only woman in that office. And I just got tired of the first and onlys. And I wanted to see what could I be doing, because so many people had poured into me over the years. What could, I be doing and pouring into others? And I really believed in the ability of crowdsourcing and crowdfunding, all of that idea of bringing good stuff together to help, one to many kind of thing. And that's sort of how Females in Finance was sort of birthed from that concept going forward.
So I love what you just said. I love a lot of what you just said. I've heard your story about walking into, San Francisco with $1,000 and just, whatever, like the world is your oyster, obviously. So clearly you have some skills as an entrepreneur, as a networker, as an educator, as a leader that were nascent when you were 19 years old, and you've been able to grow those? Because I know I've heard you talk about mentoring and the coaching and stuff that you've had from some of the allies. So I love what you just described there. And I think it sets the scene perfectly, especially when you go into talking about crowdsourcing, because what better way to connect your ability to network and be that fire starter for a group, right? To get people together on an idea, but then to combine that with financial services and say, here's where we can do good.
Yeah.
Here's a place ripe for doing good.
Oh, yeah.
Those two skills. So yeah, then Females in Finance was born when?
Yeah, well, I did a ton of research in 2017, between 2017 and 2018. 2018 became sort of a special interest group on Facebook. I sort of started, I was looking for a repository, to be honest with you. I had no money. I just wanted to be able to collect people into a space that we could dialogue, and Facebook groups were natural. LinkedIn groups as well, but there's a lot of a lot of work that still needs there. But it was very fast approaching. When I started, I got to be honest with you, Laura, I went into it thinking if I could get 200 women to listen to me, and that happened like in 8 days. I mean, honestly, and I was just picking up the phone for every original OG out there. Thank you, because my call sounded a lot like, "Hey, girl, I'm gonna do this thing. I'm not even sure what I'm doing, but will you help me?" And they're like, of course, of course. And it just progressed from that. And so I never, ever thought at that time that this would be thousands of people, much less me going out and talking about trying to change a profession to 100,000 in numbers. So
Amazing. Amazing. And I think that's it. It takes somebody willing to do that little bit of roll up your sleeves and get out and call people individually. I mean, yeah, when Adam said that, Adam Holt, you were telling us earlier that he couldn't believe that you started this community without advertising. Let's talk about that a little bit. How do you get
Yeah, that's a big one. And so I think that, there's advertising in the sense that you can go out, and I do post, make posts about come into Females in Finance and do that. So I want to be very transparent about that. But as far as like paid media, going out and doing paid advertising and such, no, I did not. I still have never done that. I get so much word of mouth traction. I mean, even just before you and I got on this call, I've got 4 emails in there from members who are introducing me to another person. That to me is much more authentic and the way I like to do connecting versus going out and being like, "Hey, come over here and do this," or whatever. Instead, what I do is I try to just put the spotlight on our members and then say, if this is something you attracts, is appealing to you or is attractive to you, come and join us. It's funny because that ask in and of itself alone is, people think oftentimes there's no way that there's an organization out there that really wants to see me be successful. What's in it for you, kind of a thing, etc. And it's been really hard because, I'm holding, it sounds so kumbaya when you say it out loud, the things that we do. I mean, you've seen some of it behind the scenes too, just from being a member, but it really is listening and putting your ear to very closely to the women and the male allies of what is it that you need to get from here to there, kind of a thing. The marketing part for me is fairly easy. I got a lot of awards back here that say I do that job well. But the other part of it, which is how do we connect people to real success points for them? And everybody has a different success point. And because I can't deem you successful and you can't deem me, it's an intrinsic feeling we have, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm really interested in each of the members when we talk to them about, well, what does success look for you? How do we get you there? All the while remembering, going back to our mission and holding on to that as sort of our chassis of hiring, mentoring, training, and advancing women. So that's what I get up every day and think, those 4 elements are what my job really is. And then everything we build around it. And the one good thing about women is we tell other women when things are good. One bad thing about women is we tell other women bad when things go bad. So do remember that if you're listening to this right now. We are a very closely knit network. And so I try really hard to make certain that information sharing is open to them. So there's not a lot of pretty flat architectures that they can just share when they need to, and share openly, honestly. So the good and the bad comes with that. And it's just been a natural progression. So I really haven't had to do paid advertising, if you will.
So what would you say? You've mentioned a few things there about the mentoring, the training, the coaching, the lifting up, but also that word of mouth and that, connecting people. What's the biggest void, Sheryl, that you see in the industry right now that you're trying to fill with Females in Finance?
I'd say some of the biggest void today is it's on both sides of the discussion. So on one side of it, I get calls today from from those who come with a scarcity mindset and say, why do you people have to do this? Like, and I love those calls actually, because then I know immediately not my person. I don't have the time to step into teaching somebody how to change their viewpoint on that, because it's not you people. It's all of us trying to make a better profession, just leaving it better than the way we found it. If you want to go back to scouting language, I mean, that's what our job is, isn't it? I think in addition to serving ourselves, we're also serving our profession and serving our clients. And at least that's the way I always took that job and that role quite seriously, especially from an ethical standpoint and other things that are there. I want to make certain we're building a better profession. But I think that there's a lot of those who are still pushing against I don't change. I don't like change. I don't want change. On the other side of it, I'm also gonna push on the women, and that is that we have to lean into it as well. There's a lot of times where there's opportunity. Let's just put a bucket of opportunity out there, right? It's the old adage of leading the horse to water. They have to still drink it themselves. We're still pushing from a confidence mindset. You've got to go after the bucket of opportunity yourself. And we all know this. Anybody listening has read, heard, wherever, that 100% of the skill set, oftentimes women think they have to achieve to be able to drink from the bucket of water, of the opportunity. And that's absolutely not true. And even today, what I think we learned from pandemic, which was the best thing that probably could have happened at the worst time to start a business. I know, we got into this and the momentum's going. Then all of a sudden, everybody was like, and here in Missouri, we do everything is about beers, right? Hold our beer. It's just, you're going to sit back here for a minute and you're not going anywhere. And we were really able to pivot quite easily with our, group, but the women specifically were, because they're so used to being of change. So you've got one group who doesn't want to change. You've got the other one who can change. And then you've got two differences of, we need both of them to lean into that problem. And I almost don't even like to use that because I know people are going to come at me with the Sheryl Sandberg stuff, but it's really the truth. We have to find the issue and we have to do a little bit more on our part on this side, and they have to do a little bit more in there. And that little bit more goes back to the crowdsourcing. It's just that little bit of change. That's where we make monumental differences later on, the butterfly effect, if you will.
So I think there's so many lessons in here that people can learn. There are financial advisors listening to this who are women and who are going, wow, I need a network like that. I need support like that. I need to lean in and take this stuff on myself. There are men who are listening to this, financial advisors who are men, and they're listening and they're thinking, how can I support some of these women, right? I know you're very big about your male allies, and there's so many great guys that are out there that are supporting this cause too. What are some other things that maybe, like, just in terms of supporting this community, let's just be selfish. What's in it for me? If somebody's listening to this and they're thinking, what's in it for me? What would you say to that, Sheryl, about why does it make sense to support women in the financial services industry?
Well, besides the fact that it just feels good, we'd like to do things that feel good. If we did it, charitable donations and things of that nature, they just feel good when we can help somebody else. And the other thing is too, that we don't know what we don't know. And a lot of times the feel good component of this is micro. It's truly that small. For example, some of the male allies come into our community and say things like, I want to work with women better. What's a good way to start that? And then the women are like, oh, I'm so glad you asked. What are you doing? A live example. We were on a networking call. We had a gentleman come in who's one of our male allies, one of our very best anonymous male allies, in the sense that he oftentimes pays for women who cannot afford their membership and they don't know it's him. He will literally tell me, if somebody really can't do it, just tell me and I'll help out, and that, which is great. And that's helped some of our younger, women come in and not have to incur. Our annual membership's $25. It's not excessive, but sometimes you can't meet that. But that gentleman had a position available in his office he wanted to hire for. Immediately, the women were like, pull it up on the screen. Let's take a look at this, what you wrote. Okay. So you've got like 8 women on this call. And he pulls it up in front and we share the screen, and immediately the women are like, take this off. Don't say that. You need to add the word flexible. Do you really need that? Or is that a nice to have? And before you know it, this 1-page job description came down to probably a third of a page. And a lot of things were truly optional. Some of it was firm, and it had a much nicer flair to it and what's much more attractive to us and appealing to women to say, okay, that's a job I would like to do. That for him was we call it putting your big ask out there, ASK. We
Mhm.
want to have those asks come genuinely so that we can be a better profession. And so the men being able to do that in a very natural environment without, being attacked or whatever. Because one of the things that I am very firm on is that for change to truly happen, real change to happen, everybody has to be included in the dialogue. We cannot cut off an entire group of individuals, i.e., men, for example, is a big one. Just because I'm saving dolphins doesn't mean I'm killing whales. I want to have an ocean of resources out there. We just need to be swimming in the right ocean, if you will. But I do think that the group that we've created, because we vet all of our members and the way we've done it, we have such a respectful group, a helpful group, completely differences of opinions across the spectrum, as many as you could possibly think of, but still so giving to one another just because, and doing business together, people who had never known one another before, females in finance. Honestly, when I go to sleep at night, the thing that I tell my husband is I lay my head down at night and I feel like I've done a good job here. I've already left legacy in this profession, just building this, which was my original, part of my goal in trying to transform our profession. But it's the onesie twosies. It goes back to the micro changes that I continually try to remind people that we can do. One little change or adding one little person to your group to be able to talk to differently than you ever before. That's how we expand the rubber band of our profession, so we don't just stay in the static situation that we've been for so many years.
I love that analogy. That's a great idea. So do you find yourself in your group and all these, conversations that you're having, all of these times that you're meeting with your members and doing the wonderful membership group, like you have a lot of events, webinars and stuff where people are getting together. Do you find there's a certain kind of question or a piece of advice that you're giving more often than others?
Unfortunately, one of them, yes. And it's about confidence. We have a tendency, women overall, very, overgeneralizing this, but we're still trying to get the confidence level up. And that it's amazing to me. For example, I'll have a woman, I'll be doing a discovery call. So for every member who comes in, they can go sign up. I encourage anybody who wants to go ahead, but you're still going to have to come through and talk to me. That's the way it works. And I'm looking for abundance minded individuals. And I'll get a lot of times women who'll get on a call and it'll sound very much like this. And I'll be asking them about their business and tell me about your work. And I always say, talk about your greatness. We all have greatness. We all remember this right now. If there's anything else that I've said in this, today, I don't care. This is it. You literally woke up today and you've won the lottery of life. You're here. The greatness is already inside of you. People like me, my job is to pull that out of you so that it shines really bright so that you can be successful and go out and make better change happen wherever that might be. And it's interesting because I'll talk to somebody and they'll say to me about their work. And then all of a sudden they'll say to me, this happens more than I can hear to admit. Well, I've written 2 books and I will have known this person for 9 or 10 years sometimes. And I'm like, well, hold on a second. When did you write these books? And they'll say, oh, I did that in the past. I'm working on something else. And what that says to me is, oh, I've solved cancer. I'm on to world peace. Like we won't even sit in our greatness. We won't even relish in the moment that we took something so profound out of our brain and we put it into writing and we bound it and we put it out there for people in a very vulnerable way and exposed our words to people. That's brave. That's big. That's to be celebrated. And yet we won't even take the time to sit in our celebrations. So the confidence conversation is every day, all the way, all the time. And I think that that's just going to continue to be a theme. And so we make that a big part of the work that we do. And I always give everybody a voice in our organization so they can talk about their greatness and get very comfortable dialoguing about it.
I can vouch for that. You did exactly that for me when I joined on our call and you mentioned that thing about the books. And I said, well, okay. So I pulled my book down and showed it to you.
That's right.
And I don't often do it. And you're absolutely right. I don't talk about it as much as I should. And I appreciated that opportunity. And you do such an amazing job propping out all of your members. I mean, the amount of posts I see where you are shouting about the success of another person, whether it's a woman or a man. Again, I do want to always honor the fact that even though this is a females in finance community, I really appreciate what you're doing about the dolphins and the whales, right?
Yeah.
Including both. And just the success that you make really normal for this group. I think it's phenomenal. I absolutely agree with you on that mindset piece and the confidence piece. And when I used to, back in my coaching days, one of the things that I used to talk about when I did a lot of speaking, I would say, do you remember, I know you do, you and I are similar age. You remember Wonder Woman and her bracelets, and she
Yeah.
had right, and she could defend those bullets nonstop, right, with her fantastic bracelets. And I would say that's pretty much, we women, when we are given a compliment, we pretty much break out the bracelets and start.
Oh yeah.
If we downplay, we do, oh, that thing, that's nothing, right? I'm on to, world peace now, no big
Yeah.
deal. Yeah.
It's so true. And
Yeah.
and I try to take a moment to, the reason I am a good hype person. Okay. So my children, I have 5, well, 6 with Daryl's stepson, but my stepson, but Daryl, but my 5 kids will tell you, I am the first one who was at the games going, you can go, you can do this, you can, I remember one time my daughter, for example, was supposed to, walk across the stage to win a particular award. And they were supposed to bring their parent that encouraged her, which at that time was her dad. And for whatever reason, he wasn't there. He wasn't on time. And I'm sitting in the back and I'm watching her, and I could see her kind of looking to the back, like, where's dad? Like, where, and all the other people had their kids. As soon as she put that first step on the stair, I'll never forget what took me. I just set everything down. I took off. And I mean, in jeans and a t-shirt, I'm running, because I thought there's no way my daughter's going to be up there without without a person. I wanted to have her support person. So I'm a hype person. And the reason why that sounds easy to do, but it's not, is because you're trying to find the things that make them different. Too often when we're talking to professionals, I guarantee anyone listening to this right now will say things like, oh, I, financial planner, and then I, do these plan. That doesn't make you interesting. It doesn't make you different. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. I want to get down to the real nitty gritty, vulnerable part of who you are, why you do this work. And when you really start pushing on people and you really make them uncomfortable, all of a sudden they'll say, well, my mom didn't have any money. Like, they almost get defensive about it. Like, I came from a single parent, or we didn't have money, or we didn't have. And I love that, because that right there is what you need to be telling people. That's your pitch, and that's your difference. That's your, Kristen Andre, I hope you listen to this, your uniqueifier. That's what she calls it. And I love that word so
That's
much.
great.
And it's one of those things where I'm trying to pull that out of you so that, guess what? You can go out there and share that with people, and the rest of the profession needs to know, oh, wait, this person's really unique. Let's celebrate that uniqueness. And I think that's really, really important, especially for women.
I love that. That's so true. And we work a lot with Deirdre Van Nest. We love her too. And she does that. Your personal
her this morning. So funny.
Yep. Small world.
Yep.
Yeah. So, okay. That's awesome. One thing I love about everything that you shared, you've got a lot of successes under your belt. You celebrate other people's successes, but I'd love to just hear from you something that you are the most proud of.
Well, I'm always most proud of being a mom. I know that sounds maybe a little bit not people, or just seems cliche or whatever, but honestly, I get teary-eyed just saying it. I love my children. I have 3 children, 2 I foster and adopted, 5 children, and each one of my kids are different. Look at me getting teary-eyed just talking about my kids. That's how much I love them. I do love my children. I loved being a mom. I loved every minute of being a mom, even though they drove me nuts. That to me was what made me proud, because part of the thing that now with all of it's, stuff or whatever, I love helping somebody at the core of who I am. When I see them get to something, I'm like, yeah, they won. That to me is a huge part of the winning, but it started from my kids, and I always go back to my son, Justin. I was a single mom when I was a teenager. And that's one of the things that he made me really slow down. And I'll never forget, I was about 19, and he was standing in my kitchen, and he had his jacket on, and he looked down and he says, Mama, he says, these zippers, like lots of M's, look, M, M, M. And he realized that the hump of and I sit there and I said, you know what? You're so smart. You are right that I'm totally going to be late to work, but who cares? Because you know what the letter M is. And it was just that first thing of noticing that I wanted to celebrate in someone's win. I knew it back then. But mothering really helped me do that.
Man, I think that's perfect. Really a perfect metaphor for anything, right? Like, so much of the work to do for financial services is educating helping
and nurturing.
People. Absolutely. Right. Helping people learn what they need to know to take control of their future financially and make that make things possible for them, right? Like you just said when you started at this conversation, how there's so much impact a financial advisor can have on the life of their clients. And it's a mirror of motherhood for sure.
It really
As a
is.
mom, I have no trouble with that.
I know. And, and I also want to say my own personal advisor is Ian Freeman. And Ian said something one time that I stuck with me for so many years now that I can't let it go. And he said, our only job in this profession is when our clients come to us and say, am I going to be okay? Do I have an answer for it? That's our job every day, is waking up and looking at these families that trust us, or business owners or clients, or however you want to define them, and say, can all of them come to me right now and say, I'm going to be okay? And we have the answers planned for them that they are going to be okay. And a lot of his was because he was affected by 9/11 with a lot of families. And he knew in that moment, like, for the rest of my life, that's my job. And I love that analogy too. So if mothering isn't for everyone, I get it. Please know that I respect that, but we do have to answer, am I going to be okay? That really is our job. And I take it pretty seriously.
Yeah. And again, taking it seriously for your clients.
Absolutely.
When I do a lot of coaching for our advisors who do workshops with White Glove. And during the pandemic, when we had to switch from seminars to webinars, I actually got to see these guys doing their thing. And I realized when I was doing that so many financial advisors are relying on the market, the stats, the volatility, the returns. Like, that's not what your clients or your potential clients care about. They literally have one question: am I going to be okay?
That's it.
Can you make sure I'm going to be okay?
Yep.
If you can, you got a job.
That's it. That's literally all it is. And that's why, although for me, mothering is the thing that I attach onto so strongly, and it is part of how I define myself, probably almost first and foremost. But I think that going back to what you just said there, and I'd love to give props to Ian on that, because that to me was the first time it really opened my eyes to, he's right. This is exactly what our job is. Yeah. And I love it. It's beautiful.
Making great returns, having more money on top of more money, all that's great. But the basic, the financial floor that has to be taken care of is, am I going to be okay?
That's it.
That's so good.
That's your and then you go through your Maslow's hierarchy of needs. They talk about, if you do, that's the, am I going to be okay? That's foundationally what you're looking at. So it all ties together.
Well, I was going to say, wrapping up here, Sheryl, I was going to say, do you have like a personal mantra? Do you have one on top of that? But I feel like, God, if we can cite that one from Ian, it's so good. But let me know.
Say that I add to that. I also want to remind people, I have it stenciled on my wall, so I never forget it. I used to just have a plaque, but I actually stenciled it on the wall, and it says, Dr. Maya Angelou says, when people show you themselves the first time, believe it. This is very important to the success of businesses. So as you are working with individuals, I don't care if it's vendors, clients, whatever that looks like. If something doesn't feel right, if it feels off, trust that deeply, because there's to me, every single time I have it, it's burned me. And I think that instead now I listen to my gut very clearly, and honor her. And for me, her, however that looks for someone else. I want you to remember that you're here to do work, to share your greatness. Every job, my daughter, my youngest child is an adult with autism. And she said to me, every job is to serve another human being. Look at any job. And I sat one night and I thought, there's got to be a job that's self-serving. It really isn't. Every job is to serve another person in this that I've been able to come up with. And if that's the case, do it with people that you enjoy. Do it with people that you want to even love, your clients and such. And if they are painful and you felt it, go back to Maya Angelou's quote on that, because it always serves you well.
Those are some fine words to live by. Before I let you go, Sheryl, would you let people know how they can find out more about Females in Finance and your Fearless Pledge?
Oh my goodness. Go to fearlesspledge.com. That's it. That's all you got to do. And it'll take you right to the page. And I want to give a shout out to Jennifer Rutley with Hidden Insights Group, who we've partnered with to help us with our survey component. And also she's just the executive director of our pledge and has done such a fabulous job in helping us create change where we can, along with meeting our members along the way where they're at too. So it's such a pleasure to do the work I do.
Well, it has been a pleasure spending this time with you, Sheryl. Thank you so much for being a part of our podcast today.
Absolutely. Thank you for this.
This has been fantastic, Sheryl. I'm going to just echo what Lara said. Thank you so much. as a father of a daughter and a grandfather of a granddaughter, I can't thank you enough. I mean, this is something that's needed all the time. And so I'm excited to help my daughter get plugged into things like this and her find her success career-wise in all sorts of aspects. But thank you for what you do. Of course, Lara, thank you for all you do with White Glove. If folks want to reach you and just kind of learn more about what White Glove does and why you're so heavily connected in a network with such amazing people, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, they can always find us on the website, whiteglove.com, or shoot us a message at info@whiteglove.com.
Awesome. Thank you both again. And of course, our last thank you always goes to you, the listening audience. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the Fast Podcast with Lara Galloway. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when Lara comes out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. And we humbly ask that you share this podcast, rate it, and leave a review, as this actually does help others find the show. Again, thank you so much for listening today. For everyone at White Glove, this is Eric Johnson reminding you to live your best day every day. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the FAST Podcast, Financial Advisor Strategy Talks with Lara Galloway, your go-to source designed to help you grow your business. Have questions about the topics covered during the show? Visit our website at www.whiteglove.com or email us at info@whiteglove.com. Don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guests and does not necessarily represent the views and opinions of White Glove. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial services provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.